Hello students, welcome to St.Joseph's Academy's online class. I am your English teacher. In today's class, we will study another exciting chapter of your English Mulberry book. The title of the chapter is The River Bank Part 1. Before starting the chapter, let me tell you something about the author. The author of this chapter is Kenneth Grahame. He was a British writer born in Edinburgh, Scotland, to a Scottish family. He was born on 8 March 1859 in Edinburgh, Scotland, UK. He is most famous for The Wind in the Willows that was written in 1908, one of the classics of children's literature. So, The Wind in the Willows, which was written in 1908, is one of his famous works. He also wrote The Reluctant Dragon. Both books were later adapted for stage and film. So, both the books, The Wind in the Willows and The Reluctant Dragon, they both were adapted later for stage and film. He is best known for writing the children's book, The Wind in the Willows. In the book, the character of Mr. Toad was inspired by Grahame's little son, Alistair. He died on 6 July 1932 at the age of 73 in England. My dear students, we all have friends and we love them. We all like to spend time with our friends. In fact, friends are one of the persons with whom we can share our experiences, feelings, and even secrets of our life. Now, just remember of the first day of your school when you were sitting alone and suddenly another child came and offers his or her friendship to you. How you felt? You felt happy. You accepted the offer. You became friends and then you started spending time together. We all like to spend time with our friends and we enjoy their company. Now in this chapter, The River Bank, which is an extract taken from the famous novel written by Kenneth Grahame. The name of the novel is The Wind in the Willows. This chapter, The River Bank, is an extract taken from that novel. In this chapter, you will learn how a mole and a rat became friends. The mole, who was busy cleaning around his underground burrow home, he suddenly came up on the ground and enjoyed the sunlight and the fresh air. And then he met the rat and then they enjoyed their company together. So let us start this chapter now. Dear students, you might be thinking what the moles are. Moles are furry, bug-eating animals that look a little like mice or squirrels. They look like a mice or a squirrel. They eat bugs and they are furry, means they have fur over their body. They dig tunnels and live underground. Now before the chapter, an activity is given in your book. Let us read the activity. Go through the maze given below and trace a path for the mole to reach to his bed. What you have to do in this activity? You have to trace a path, the correct path for the mole which will take him to his bed. Do this activity yourself. You will enjoy doing it. Let us begin the chapter. This story is about four animal friends: the mole, the toad, the rat, and the badger. Now, this story is about four animal friends: the mole, the toad, the rat, and the badger. You are aware with the mole, the toad, and the rat, but badger, it is an animal with short legs, wide feet with long claws, and strong jaws that lives underground and comes out to feed at night. Let's read how the mole and the rat became friends. In this story, as I already told you, it's an extract taken from the famous novel written by Kenneth Grahame, The Wind in the Willows. It's an extract only, so in this chapter, you will only read how the mole and the rat became friends. The mole had been working very hard all the morning cleaning his little home, first with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps and chairs, then with a brush and a pail of whitewash, till he had splashes of whitewash all over himself. Now, the mole had been described as working very hard since morning. He was cleaning his little home, first with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps, and then chairs. He was using a brush and a pail. Pail means bucket of whitewash to clean his home, and he was cleaning the home till he had splashes of whitewash all over himself. Splashes means some few drops of whitewash fell over him, and he was also having some spots of that color on his body. This is fine, he said to himself. Then, jumping off all his four legs at once, he bolted up the steep little tunnel which took him nearer to the sun and air. As he wandered along, suddenly he came to the edge of a river. Never in his life had he seen a river before. Now, I told you that the mole was busy working very hard all the morning. He was cleaning his little home, and when he finished cleaning his home, he was satisfied with the work he had done. He said that it looks fine. And then he jumped off all his four legs and he ran up. Bolted means he ran up the little tunnel where he was living. He was living underground. So he ran up that little tunnel which took him in the direct sunlight in an open ground where he could feel the fresh air and the sun. When he was roaming along, when he was moving here and there, suddenly he came to the edge of a river, and he had never seen a river before in his life. The mole was fascinated by the gleams and sparkles, the rustle and swirl, and the chatter and bubble of the river. Now, as he had never seen a river before in his life, he was fascinated, means he was interested by the gleams and sparkles, means the shining appearance of the river. As the river was shining, so he was attracted towards the river. The rustle and swirl. Rustle means the soft crackling sound like that might be caused by the movement of dry leaves or paper. You might have noticed. Now the river was making the sounds by which the mole was interested or fascinated towards it. The rustle and swirl. Swirl means moving in a twisting pattern. The river was moving in such a pattern that the mole was interested towards it. And the chatter and bubble of the river. Chatter again is another sound of the river flowing noisily. So the mole was attracted by the shiny sparkles, rustle, swirl, chatter and bubble of the river. As he sat on the grass and looked across the river, he saw a dark hole in the bank opposite, just above the water's edge. Something bright and small seemed to twinkle down in the center of it, vanished, then twinkled once more like a tiny star. Now, as he was sitting there on the grass and enjoying the beauty of the river, he saw a dark hole in the bank opposite, just above the water's edge. On the opposite side of the bank, he saw a dark hole there. Something bright and small seemed to twinkle in the center of it, then vanished. Vanished means disappeared suddenly, and then twinkled once more like a tiny star. So it was disappearing and coming again like a tiny star, and it was shining there in the center of that hole. But it could hardly be a star, and it was too glittering and small for a glowworm. Then, as he looked, it winked at him, and so the mole knew it was an eye. A small face began gradually to grow up round it, like a frame round a picture. A brown little face with whiskers. Now, students, I told you that as the mole was sitting there on the grass and enjoying the beauty of the river, he saw a hole in the bank opposite, just above the water's edge. He saw something in the center of it which was shining like a tiny star, but it could hardly be a star. And it could not be a glowworm also, as it was too shiny and small. Then as he was looking at it, it winked at him. Wink means what? Wink means to close and open one eye very quickly. So when it winked at him, the mole understood that it was an eye. And slowly a small face began to grow up round that dark hole, like a frame round a picture. And it was a face, little face with whiskers. Whiskers means what? Whiskers means one of the long hairs that grow near the mouth of some animals, such as a mouse, cat, etc. So, a small face began to grow up round that dark hole, and it was a brown little face with whiskers. Small neat ears and thick silly hair. It was the water rat. Hello, mole, said the water rat. Hello, rat, said the mole. Would you like to come over? Asked the rat. Oh, I would love to, said the mole, but how do I cross the river? Now, a small face began gradually to grow up round that dark hole, and it was a little brown face with whiskers, small neat ears, and thick silly hair, and finally it was clear that it was the water rat. The water rat and the mole greeted each other by saying hello, and then the rat invited the mole to come over to his place, to come over to his side. The mole replied that he would love to come there, but he don't know how to cross the river. The rat said nothing but stooped. Stoop means he bent down and untied. Untied means he removed a knot or freed something that was tied by a rope and pulled on it. He then lightly stepped into a little boat which the mole had not seen. It was painted blue outside and white within, and was just the size for two animals. The mole thought it was wonderful, even though he did not yet fully understand its uses. Now, when the mole said that he don't know how to cross the river, the rat stooped down and he untied the rope and pulled on it. And then he stepped into a little boat. The boat was painted blue from outside and white from inside, and it was perfect for the two animals. Means two animals can sit perfectly, comfortably in that little boat. The mole had not seen a boat in his life before. The mole thought it is wonderful even though he did not understand its uses. The rat rowed smartly across the river. Then he held up his forepaw as the mole stepped carefully down into the boat. Now the rat, he sat in that little boat and he went towards the mole. He rowed smartly across the river, means he moved the boat through the water using oars smartly and crossed the river and reached the mole's side. And then he held up his forepaw. Forepaw means front paw of an animal. You can see in the picture clearly how the rat is helping the mole to step carefully down into the boat. "This has been a wonderful day," said the mole. "Do you know, I have never been in a boat before in all my life." And when the mole stepped into the boat, he told the rat that he had never been in a boat before in all his life. "What?" cried the rat. "Never been in a? You never? Well, what have you been doing then?" So when the mole told the rat that he had never been in a boat before in all his life, the rat was quite surprised to hear that. And then he asked the mole that if he had never been in a boat, then what he has been doing till now. "Is it so nice as all that?" asked the mole shyly as he leaned back in his seat and looked at the cushions, the oars, and felt the boat sway lightly under him. Now, when the mole stepped into the boat, he looked at the cushions and the oars, and he felt the boat sway. Sway means move slowly under him. As he leaned back means as he sat comfortably in a relaxing position, he hesitantly asked the rat that is it so nice as simply messing about in boats? "Nice? It's the only thing," said the rat as he leaned forward for his stroke. "Believe me, my young friend, there is nothing half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats." Simply messing. He went on dreamily, messing about in boats, messing. Now when the mole asked the rat that is it so nice that as simply messing about in boats, the rat as he leaned forward means as he moved his head and body forward to give another stroke to the boat, he replied that it's not only nice, but it's the only thing. In fact, there is nothing half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats. "Look out!" cried the mole suddenly. It was too late. The boat struck the bank. The rat lay on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air. Now, as the rat was continuing with his thoughts about simply messing about in boats, he went on dreaming about it, and suddenly the mole cried out. He gave a warning to the rat that look out means he warned the rat about something. What happened? It was too late. The warning was given late. What had happened? The boat had struck the bank and the rat had fallen with his back at the bottom of the boat and his heels in the air. About in boats or with boats, the rat went on calmly, picking himself up with a pleasant laugh. Now, when the rat had fallen at the bottom at the boat with his heels in the air, he picked himself up with a pleasant laugh and continued with what he was saying earlier before falling down. He was saying that there is nothing half so much worth doing as simply messing, means simply moving idly about in boats or with boats. In or out of them, it doesn't matter. If you are free this morning, shall we drop down the river together and have a long day of it? The rat even told the mole that it doesn't matter if they are in or out of the boat. And if the mole is free that morning, he offered him to spend some more time together with him and enjoy the ride in the boat and have a long day of it. The mole leaned back into the soft cushions happily. What a day I'm having, he said. Let us start at once. So the mole happily accepted the offer by saying that let us start at once. He leaned back. Lean back means he sat in a comfortable position as if he is relaxing and enjoying the company and gave his agreement to his offer, approval to his offer by accepting it and saying that let us start at once. And they both went on further enjoying each other's company. So, students, this chapter was an extract taken from the famous novel The Wind in the Willows, written by Kenneth Grahame. After explaining the chapter, it's time for some homework now. Your homework is to read the chapter again and try to solve the exercises given in the book. With this, our today's class is over. I hope you all might have enjoyed the class and understood the chapter very well. We will meet again soon in our next class, means the next part of this chapter, where we will be discussing the few exercises related to this chapter. Till then, complete all your homework and stay safe. Thank you and have a nice day.